guys, it's me, Marcy. Hello from Atlanta. Today, first, thanks for joining me. I appreciate it. Today, we're going to be working on wires. A little something different. I thought, hey, we've been doing a lot of mandrel stuff, and wires are kind of a natural progression. The other thing is that you've done so many flowers, and I wanted to give you just maybe a couple of ideas of some of the things you can do with it. And here's a clue. I'm not a jewelry maker, so it's going to be other things. Anyhow, don't forget to say hi and say where you're from. And also, if you'd like, if you have ideas of subjects for us for future weeks, because I think we're still stuck for a little while longer in our homes. And don't forget, we are artists in residence, which sounds so much better than stuck, huh? Anyhow, let's get started. What I'm going to do first is turn around the camera and hook it in, and thanks for joining me. I really appreciate it. So I'm flipping the camera and hooking it into where it goes, and let's get started. We might as well. Oh, you got to see all my fingers too. Okay, so I think I can do it right from here. And I check to see where my hands can go. Okay, so first of all, I like working on wires. Sometimes you can do a lot of fun things. And some of the wires that I use, I thought I would have here. This is the main one that I like to use. This is Darkening steel wire. I get mine from Ace Hardware. What I really like is that it's got some measurements on the back, because I use those a lot, and it's inexpensive. Now, the bad thing about this, watch my fingers. Oh, that was better than usual. Oftentimes you can get little lines, and it's not the cleanest stuff in the world. So it depends on how you're going to be using it. If you're doing jewelry, you might prefer using another type of wire. But the wire that I tend to use, especially if we're going to use a flower press, is somewhere between 19 and 23 gauge, something like that. And you can find the gauge along the bottom right here. So another wire that some people use is this Nichrome wire, and it's silver, and it comes out silver. It's a lot more expensive, but if I were doing something that needed to stay silver, this is a good option. And of course, there's always copper, which I use a lot too. And you need to clean it afterwards, and I just use a little steel wool or something like that. And that seems to work just fine. So there are the wires, and I have a very magic wire cutter that I use. It's this, and this cuts the wires just fine for me. So I thought I'd mention that. And sometimes I do work off of the ends of old 1/16 mandrels. Does anyone else ever break or bend their 1/16 mandrels? I love using them, but I have problems. So I thought before I get started, I'd just mention that. I work off of old 1/16 mandrels, and what happens is, you know, I've got my regular mandrel, and then I bend it, and I think, I don't want to throw it away. So I'll snip it, and let me just show you what I use for snipping it. And these work for 30 seconds also. This is called a Midwest P6300. And you used to get them at Home Depot, but now you have to go, I think, to either Amazon or the Midwest website. But let me just show you. You know how sometimes when you have mandrels and then you have to grind them down because you get the little uneven edges? Watch me cut this sucker. Look at that, and you get nice edges, so you don't have to grind them down afterwards. So that is a Midwest P6300, and I've had this one pretty close to when I started working, which has been almost 20 years. I did get a new one recently. So the reason why I'm showing you that is because, yes, we're going to be working on flowers, and I'm going to show you how to do leaves and stuff. But afterwards, what are you going to do with that type of stuff? Well, I made this to show you, and I thought it would be fun. These are some of the little flowers we'll be doing today, but I thought I'd also show you how to make some little blades of grass. And you guys already know how to do the little irises, because we did that a previous week, right? So I just made them on the ends of that same black wire. Here, I'll pull this one out to show you. See, I just did the exact same thing that we did a previous week. And if you need to find my old videos, if you've forgotten, if you go, you're here on my page, right? So go to my photos, and then albums, and then videos. And I've got a whole bunch of videos in there. And different ones that you haven't seen, I have on a YouTube channel, which is, if you just look up Marcy Lamberson, you'll find some other videos also. But anyhow, I thought what would go well with the irises, so I made just some basic blades of grass, made some tiny little mushrooms. I had this bead already, which I think is kind of fun, the little fairy that's on the mushroom. And then I just made a little snail with using some silver glass and some little bell flowers, and that's it. But what I wanted to show you is this one I made on a wire, and this one was off of the end of a mandrel, so I just stuck a mandrel in here, and this is just kind of a green mossy thing, and underneath it is some floral foam that you can get like at Michael's and lots of other places, so you have something to smush inside of it. But you saw the kind of fancier beads, but look, it looks cute even if you just put just a simple little bead in there also. Can you see that? I'm not sure whether the angle's right, but I wanted to show you that you already know how to do the irises. You know how to do that. You can put just about any cute little bead inside of there and make something really cute and fun. So that's that, and I was going to show you, these are on the ends of 1/16 mandrels, and then what I do is just from my small pieces of mandrels, and I'll show you once we get started, I'll make it on the end, stick it in the kiln, anneal it, and then cut it with my handy cutters afterwards to a length that I like. So now you have seen the deep, dark secrets of working on mandrels and wires, and we're going to get going to some demos. So the first thing I wanted to show you is my bellflower press. This one is from Murano. I even put my name on it because I was scared I was going to lose it. And essentially, these are expensive. You can get them through Spiral Arts, or, and they are expensive, but beautifully made. Or you can buy some less expensive, smaller ones, like through Devardi. So these are some other presses that are less expensive, and the flower isn't quite as nice, but you know what? You've got tweezers. You can make something great out of them. Let's make something out of each of these. And I've got some wire pre-cut. Let me grab that, and we'll start up the torch. I just kind of tossed all of it together, so I need to kind of find underneath my piles. Oh. So don't forget to tell me who you are if you're watching, where you're from, and if there's something special that you've wanted to see, okay, for future weeks. And if I'm not already teaching it in one of my classes, because I really love to teach in person. That's my favorite way. And by the way, if there's a glass studio that you normally take lessons from, once we get going again, please request me. I would love to teach you all kinds of things. All right, I'm getting my glasses on, and I'm a little farther away from my phone. We're going to work fast because I never know whether it's going to get too hot and my phone stops working. And if my phone stops working, then I will do a secondary video afterwards to show you what you've missed. Okay, so guess I better grab some glass too. Here's some wire that I pre-cut. Now, normally most people work with longer wire, and that's cool. And if you're not working with the steel wire or wire that doesn't conduct heat, you're going to want some sort of a wire holder. And you can get those at your local studios, and I would bet that probably Jackie Marr of Kiss My Glass has some sort of wire holder. Jackie, if you're watching, pipe up and say yes or no. And I believe Jim Barry does from Blue Moon Glassworks in Austin, which is another great studio to go to for classes and stuff. My glasses just fogged up, so I was defogging them. Okay, so let's grab this and let's grab some glass, and we're going to heat and squish, which is a technical term. So what I'm doing is, for me, I bend the very end into kind of like an L, so I have something to hold on to, because I think you've heard me before, I like to use my fingers as much as possible. And see, there's a slot right here in the press. I'm going to put glass on the end here, go through the slot, pull it down, and then squish, and that is going to make the flower. So let's see. When I heat up my wire just a little bit, I heat up the end, and on this type it balls up a tiny bit, and that works well for keeping the glass on. And this is one of Creation is Messy's new colors, but I don't know the name of it. I think it's one of the ones that might be coming out in May, which is when their new colors are coming out. It's really pretty. It's wispy translucent. So we'll see how it looks as a flower. And I am just wrapping some glass onto the warm end. See how I'm keeping my wire out of the flame? Once it's gone in once and balled up, I want to keep the wire itself out, because otherwise your flame is going to cut through it and you will lose it off of the end. And I'm really hoping I don't do that in front of all of you. So I'm going to heat the glass itself, get it toasty while trying to keep the wire out of the flame. I'm just turning it back and forth a bit. And we're going to do an odd balancing where I put it in, hope you can see this, and I squish, then pull it out fast, and voila, you have a little flower. I'm going to go back and just add a little heat to it. Now, that was fast and easy, wasn't it? And it's beautifully done. You can buy these presses that they have different numbers of the petals on them, different sizes, stuff like that. And I'm going to pop this into the kiln because it's kind of a pretty one, and I do like that new glass for it. It's pretty. It's not transparent and it's not opaque. It's just a nice translucent color. Okay, so that was the first one. Now let's try the same thing on the Davardi presses so you can see the difference. Figure that way, you kind of have an idea. Now Davardi has different shapes for their flowers, and some are more open, some are tighter, they're different sizes. But I use smaller amounts of glass because obviously the depression is a lot smaller than what the other one was that I used. So remember, we heat up the wire, get a little ball, see how it's orangey and a ball, and heat up some glass, and I don't need as much. We're going to go right off at the end on the warm area that we had just heated up, and we're going to put a nice little glob of glass on there. Not as much as last time. And I have no idea whether this is the right amount, but I'm hoping it's close enough. So we're going to go back in and heat up just the glass and not the wire. See how I keep turning it? And then I'm going to go in through the hole. And the thing is, they make these for right-handed people, and I'm a lefty. I think some of you guys are lefties too. So it looks a little awkward when I'm doing it. See, hot in, squish. And it doesn't feel like I squish all the way, so sometimes while it's still warm, I'll push down on my torch-mounted marber tube. Whoops. Well, sorry guys. We will do that one more time. What happened was, it was fine at the first point, and then I went back to show you how I sometimes push when it's still hot, but it had already cooled a bit. So that's what happened. It cooled even more, and I didn't pull it out fast enough. So we're going to try it again, and I won't go back to that extra smush. We'll just pull it out just the way it is after the first smush, which is a little less even, but it's fine. Okay, glass in the hole, push down, pull out, and that's a nice little flower. Let me give it a little heat, because don't forget, you're using tools that suck the heat out. But that's pretty cute. It's little, but it's just right. And that would be cute earrings for a head pin for the earrings and stuff too. And pop this in the kiln. And that one I believe is in their bellflower category. And then this one, I don't know whether you can see it, is wider. It opens up wider. It's not as much of a cup, and I can't remember what they call this particular one. If somebody knows, please feel free to type it in the comments. And let's do the same color again one more time with that one, so you get to see. And whatever Devarty has, they're kind of different, so just kind of look to see what the presses look like themselves if you want to get a press. Just going to add a little bit on the outside, on the very end. And I'm just using gravity, and then I'm going to heat it up, but not heat the wire if possible. It might take you a couple times because it feels not normal, especially if you're a lefty and you're reaching around to do it. So I put in the wire, press down, pull out. Let me just show you. See, it's just a little nub almost. Now, what I like these for, which I think is kind of fun, and I could have added more glass. Nobody could see there. Let's do it again with more glass and see whether it looks prettier. I like these also on the outside of discs. Sometimes you make discs and you think, what am I going to do with these? Well, these kind of look cute with them also, for centers on the discs. Okay, I'm just adding more glass around the edges. And then we'll heat up the whole thing and we'll smush it again and see what we got. Okay, just not the wire, right? Anything but the wire we can heat up. Let's see whether we've got it here. Maybe we'll get a little bit larger flower this time. Oops. Oh, that's better looking. Let me just heat it up a little bit before I show you so it doesn't break on us. There you go. There you can see a little bit more of the petals. I hope you can see it at least. Anyhow, so that kind of gives you the breadth of making flowers on wires. And the Donat press, which I really love. If you ever get to Murano, you've got to go to Roberto's tool shop. It's been in the family. His father made tools beforehand, and Roberto does them now, and they are beautiful, beautiful tools and worth every cent. So, okay, so let's do something. Oh, let's see, we've done those. Oh, I had promised my friend Maria, who I think is watching, let's make some leaves. And she said, oh, you can just use a leaf press or whatever. Just, she wanted to see some basic leaves. Well, I don't have a leaf press right now. I'm really happy with just making them on my own. So I have some opaque green. But let me tell you what I like to do. I usually like to mix a couple of the ends of green together, including some transparent greens, and it just gives a little more life to it. But what we're going to do here, I probably ought to get my tools out before I do it, huh? This crazy tool here, Forceps, I bet you've seen those before. And let me grab some tweezers also. That should be enough for now. Oh, one more. We're going to need to press them also. Okay, so we're going to add a little bit of glass to the end. of this wire, just the way we've been wrapping it around before. I heated up the end and it made the little ball on the end, and then I'm adding a little extra glass, flame cutting it, and then let's press that glass. Okay, we've got the basic part of a leaf. So if we want to make it longer, we heat up the part that we want to move, and we just take a cool end and we pull it a little bit and hold it for a second, because if you pull it too fast off of it, then of course it's going to pull it into kind of like a stringer. Take what you want off. Okay, so there are other things you can do to it. This is one of my secrets. These are curved forceps that have the little bit of the ribbing on them. I don't know what technically they're called, but I think they make really cool parts on a leaf. So what I do is I heat up one side, just one, and I make a couple little indentations. Isn't that cool? It's great for a leaf. And then I can heat up the other side if I want indentations the other way too. Remember, one side at a time, because the cool side will help it keep its shape. And we can go right back in and make a couple more indentations. So that, also with the squeezing, it adds a little bit of movement to it, which is what I like. I prefer not having flat leaves. And I guess as long as we have this leaf here, I'll show you another trick. If it were just plain flat, or with these, sometimes what I'll do is I'll take my shears, which are the fancy kind, but you can use kitchen shears as long as they're sharp, or other kinds, and I just heat the very edge and I'll make little snips into it. Teeny tiny little snips. Barely any. And see how you can get some little leafy edges along there? So that gives you another idea. I would do it on both sides. So you've got forceps, you've got shears, and there's one other way. Well, there are multiple other ways, but let me show you another simple way. Is you can use, I better keep this warm or we're going to have to make another leaf. I'm showing you every technique on one tiny leaf. You can use a razor blade, or I have my old brass stump shaper. Look at the poor thing is all worn out. So again, I would heat up the side just a little bit, one side at a time, and I would push in a tiny bit. Heat up a little more, push in a tiny bit, and keep going. And can you see how that gives you indentations and gives you a leafy shape also? That's really pretty too. So you've seen 3 styles of leaves on one little simple leaf. You can make all kinds of shapes, you can add on, you can do whatever you want. But oftentimes the leaves are more the background for other flowers, and I tend to like them to have a little variation, but I tend to want the flower to be the star. Okay, remember how we did daffodils when I made a teeny tiny one on here? Doesn't it look pretty with a little leaf behind it? It just kind of frames things and shows things off. And don't forget, you got lots of greens, so if you have a dark flower, you probably want a lighter green, and you've got yellow greens and blue greens, so think carefully about what you're using it for and how you want to use it. Okay, so another thing with these locking forceps. We talked about holding wires, and I'm going to tell you something weird, but this is what I use for holding my wires. These are locking forceps. Well, most of the pairs that I own are. Might have to find some other ones, but I use these and make my stuff on the ends when I'm working with copper wires. So my other pair is locked, but I must, oh, there we go. So I'll use that, and I'll hold it like this and turn it, but you can get much more comfortable, easier, woohoo, other things that don't fall apart. Normally they work. It must be an old pair. Okay, so we've done leaves and flowers. We have blades of grass to do next, and let's do those off of a mandrel. You can do them on wires too. You can do them however you want because you are the boss, right? So let's just do it with this glass. But normally I would take a bunch of ends of glass and mix them together and probably add some transparent clear, pull it out, and then use that glass for a bunch of blades of grass. And the reason why is because I like to have some variation in it, and then I would do some others using some of the same colors but slightly different so that all my grass didn't look exactly the same. So what I have is a piece of 1/16 mandrel, and I'm heating it up. It doesn't ball up the same way, but you can see the orange when it's hot, can't you? And we're going to add some glass to the end of it. You can go down a little ways, but not too far. It depends on how much grass you want. Okay, so this is being done a little bit differently. Hang on a sec. So what I like to do is I smush. I heat up the glass. You don't have to be as careful when you're working with a mandrel. And you don't have to use a mandrel for the grass blades. I just like to. And I am going to press, make it flat like a pancake. Got it? And then I'm going to heat it up, and I'm going to pull it out like a ribbon cane. So I've heated it up, and I just grab the very end and I pull. And if I want to give it some movement, now is a good time to do it. And see how you have a little blade of grass like that? Very easy. You can move it around still and then pop it into the kiln. So you can make grass for your terrarium or whatever you're making. And I tend to pull off the very end just so that it's a little bit more delicate looking. Okay, so let's find something else to make while we're here, huh? I was thinking that we could make a little mushroom. Mushrooms are pretty easy and they're cute and you can decorate them, and they would be great in one of these little pots with your flowers. I did some little ones here, and then my fairy girl is on a mushroom. But depending upon the size, you want to make a stem, and I have a 1/16 mandrel. Oh, I meant to tell you, if you don't have 1/16 mandrels, my friend Diane, who I've melted glass with for years, has an Etsy shop called DK Designs on Etsy, and she says she's got plenty of 1/16s in stock right now if you need some. So I just did like a little cone shape. And ivory is great, although I think that might be, I don't know whether it is. It might be yellow. We'll see what it is. So I made a cone shape. Doesn't need to be perfect, but you want it pretty flat on the bottom. But you're going to be sticking it in things, so if it's not exactly flat, don't worry, because you're probably going to have a little give and take in whatever you're planting it in. If it's too far off, just add a little bit down along the bottom. Yeah, oh, this is opal yellow, which is one of my favorite colors. I like opal yellow. So don't forget to tell me if you're looking for something in particular for me to teach. I'm happy to teach other things as long as they aren't ones that I normally teach in classes. If I teach it in a class, then I can't do it as a demo here. And otherwise, I have all kinds of ideas. If you guys are stuck, I have all kinds of things. Techniques, playing with some silver glass, creativity challenges, teaching you how to get out of a rut, some ideas for that, which are awfully fun. And there are all kinds of things we can do. So for the top of the mushroom, we've got the base of the mushroom. How easy was that? I just go around in a circle. Okay. So you know you can stop there if you want. but I like it to stick out a little bit more. So what I do is I heat just the red part. Well, this is actually 420 coral, and I press it flat down. So now I have a cap that I can angle if I want the mushroom to be on a little bit of an angle, and then I can just add a big dot and pull up from there. So this little mushroom. There you go. And I'm just adding glass to the top, and I make sure that it touches the very edge. Right now I'm holding it upside down, and that will work just fine, won't it? Because of gravity, but also it's cooling a little bit, and I can pull it up a little bit too. So we have a mushroom, and I tend to like to add little white dots to it also. You know what? The artist in me doesn't like these proportions. Sorry, guys. I hate getting fussy when we're on a time crunch, but I need to make either the cap larger or smaller, but it couldn't stay the same size as the bottom. Now it's a little bit bigger, and that makes me feel better. I'll be able to sleep tonight. Okay, so if we need a little bit of white, I have a little bit of white here. I just heat up the mushroom top, barely heat the white, and just touch down in a few places. Those little white dots just kind of add a little bit to the magic of it, I think. We'll melt them in. And now you can make mushrooms for your terrarium, if that's what you want, or you can make them on the ends of wires. Now, if you're doing head pins for jewelry, remember that usually the head pin goes down, so you would make it in this direction instead. So you would make a cone with the wider part with the red first on it, and then you would add the stem to it afterwards if you want it for earrings. So it would hang like that, right? Okay, let me pop that in. And I had, let's see, I had one last little thing. We're about at the end here. Let me see whether I can find it. I wanted to show you a little trick. I'm going to make a little tiny flower, and I'm going to add a bee to it. A bee, well, I've got this easy way of doing it. Of course, yeah, we'll use that. Maybe this, something, I don't know. Okay, so let's make a quick flower. Let's do it on a mandrel. And, oh, yeah. It'll show up well on there. And we'll just do, no, I don't like that. I like this. We'll do a green center on the flower, and then we'll do some of this purple. This is that new purple from Creation is Messy Glass. So I'm just going to do a center so I have something to make petals off of. And I'm heating up the mandrel, and I'm going to add just a dot to it. So if you're making big flowers on the ends of mandrels, which some people like to do, and they make a wonderful Mother's Day present. My mom loved getting some big flowers for her plant stakes and stuff. You can do all kinds of things, but I just do them right on a 1/16 mandrel, and I think that's very easy. So we've got a center. And don't forget, if you want it perfect, you can use one of your molds, you can use a press, you can use other things on it too. It just stays permanently on there. Let's add some petals to this. So I'm just melting some of this new sim color. I get to be a tester, which is really fun. This one has a number on it, but you'll see another one. This is another one that's kind of translucent, but what a gorgeous color. I'm just adding some dots that we can smush in a second. And I see they're all different sizes. I'm just going to make this flower very interesting. add a little more on there. And we'll be close enough because I really just want to show you the bee. I don't really care a whole lot about this flower. So let's heat them up one at a time and press them. Here's one. See how I work under the flame and I just press one at a time? Kind of hard to do multiples, huh? There we go. Okay, we've got a little flower, and let's make a little bee on it. And what I do is I do a tight twisty with yellow and black, and I happen to have pre-cut a little piece off of it, or maybe it broke, I'm not sure. And I'm going to heat up the end of the twisty. See, there's the twisty. And I'm going to stick it on the flower, and I'm going to heat up the rest of it and kind of let it fatten up a little bit. And then we'll tap it into place. Add a little bit of black. We got to keep the flower warm. Got to find where I put that black. There it is. I want the head to be black on it, so I decide which end is the head. I add a fat little dot for black for the head, and then I tend to add 2 little dots to make it look more bee-like. Oh, this will be so cute when it comes out. And then we need wings, and normally I would have, oh, there we go. Here's a piece of pale yellow that we can use. Meanwhile, keep your flower warm, and we're just going to add some little tiny wings onto it, and then we'll be done. Isn't that cute? So I just go down and pull out a little bit. I'm doing this kind of backwards, hoping that you're able to see that, and pull out a little bit. I went down and pulled out, down and pulled out. Close enough. And there is your little bee on a flower. So, that concludes today, and thank you for joining me, Marcy Lamberson. Come back tomorrow to my page, and I will have for you pictures of everything that we did today. Thanks for joining me. Don't forget, let me know that you popped by, and thanks for coming. See you next Thursday at 3 o'clock Eastern Time. Take care. Bye from Marcy.